Good evening, guys. I hope you have all had a good day. Today we're going to talk about 1-4, which is about powers and exponents. And our goal by the end of today is to be able to evaluate expressions that have exponents in them. Now, I'm pretty sure you've seen exponents before, and so this is going to be mostly a review. We have 3 vocab words. The first one is power. And a power is an expression written with an exponent and a base. So a power would look something like this. Let's say 2 to the 7th. Okay, that whole expression there we call a power. Now a power has 2 parts to it, as you can see. It has an exponent and a base. And those are our next 2 vocab words. Base is the number that is used as a factor. So in this example, the base is 2. It's the number that's raised to the exponent. Then the second part that a power has is called the exponent, and that tells us how many times to use the base. So the exponent in this example would be the 7. Okay, that's the exponent. So a power is made up of a base and an exponent. The base is the number that's being raised to the exponent, and then the exponent is the number up top that tells us how many times to use it. So the first thing you'll be doing in today's homework is evaluating expressions. And remember, evaluate means to find the value. So here we have -6 to the 3rd. Now remember that the 3 tells us that we're going to multiply -6 times -6 times -6. Very common mistake here is people will just do -6 times 3 and they'll say this is -18. Okay, that's not true. Remember, the exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base. So here I'm just going to break this up. -6 times -6 is positive, sorry, shouldn't put a negative sign there, positive 36, because as we learned yesterday, a negative times a negative is a positive. So then I have 36 times -6. And let's see, that's going to be, I believe, 216. And since I have a positive times a negative, it's going to be a negative 216. So then I found the value of -6 to the 3rd. Let's look at another one. Okay, we have -10 to the 2nd. Now, notice here that the negative sign isn't in parentheses like it is in part A. That's going to be important here. When it's in parentheses like it was in part A, the negative travels with it every time you multiply it. When it's not in parentheses like it is here, it stays out front. Okay? So I'm just going to leave the negative sign out front, and then I have 10 squared. So that's 10 times 10. Notice the negative sign doesn't go with it each time. That's the difference between parentheses and not parentheses. So then I have -10 times 10, which is -100. So the value of -10 squared is -100. And they'll also give you some with fractions. So when I have a fraction, I'm going to do the same thing I do with a whole number. So this 2/9 to the 2nd is going to be 2/9. Don't really need the parenthesis there, so I'll get rid of that. 2/9 times 2/9. Now remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply across, so we have 4 over, and 9 times 9 is 81. So 2/9 to the 2nd is 4 over 81. Then the second thing that you'll do today looks like this. Now these look to be kind of confusing at first. The directions say write each number as a power of the given base. So here's what they'll do. They'll give you a number. In this case they give you 64, and they give you a base. Now what they're not telling you is the exponent. So what this means, it's asking 8 to what power, or what exponent I should say, 8 to what exponent is equal to 64. So how many 8s does it take to make 64? Now one common mistake here, people always say 8. 8 times 8 is 64. But remember, we're looking for an exponent. So we're asking how many times we have to multiply 8 by 8 to get to 64. Now since, as I just told you, 8 times 8 is 64, that would mean that 8 to the second equals 64. So now I've written 64 as a power. Okay, here's my power, 8 to the second. Let's look at another one of those. So this one asks -3, and we'll put that in parentheses, to what power equals 81? Okay, so again, it's asking how many times do I have to do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, etc. to get to 81. Well, I don't know that off the top of my head, so I'm just going to do a little trial and error here. -3 times -3 is 9. It's not big enough, obviously. So times -3 again, well, that's -27. Not big enough. Times -3 again. Yep, that works. That's 81. So how many 3's did I use? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means -3 to the 4th power is 81. So here's my power for 81, -3 to the 4th. Today's lesson was pretty short, as you can see. Again, we're just going to be doing two things. The first, evaluating expressions, and this would be how you would show your work. Okay, so when you do your assignment, you'd write down the original problem, write out the number of however many your exponent is, and then solve. And then the second thing you'll be doing looks like this. And again, this would be how you would show your work, just like I did here. If you need to watch this again, go ahead. Remember to write down any questions that you might have for me to ask me tomorrow in class, and I'll see you tomorrow.